up, y'all? We are the Hoopstorians. We are live. This is coming our first show. I'm Tony Styles. We have the double R rated superstar, Rodrigo Rodriguez, and we got the best rapper you've never heard of, and Neek, down at the bottom. And the goal of this show is to kind of explain what the history of hoops is, maybe some untold stories, maybe some things you didn't know. You guys are more than welcome to, in the comments, please let us know what you want to hear about, what you want to talk about. And other than that, let's go ahead and get into the show. We're going to start it off with this day in NBA history. February 1st, 1967, the ABA was founded. It had 11 teams. It merged or folded, however you want to look at it. 9 years later, 4 teams joined the NBA: the Pacers, the Spurs, the Nets, the Nuggets. The Pittsburgh Pirates were the first champs. The New York Nets were the last champs. The Indiana Pacers had the most titles. They had a 30-second shot clock. They introduced us to such things as the three-pointer. They introduced us to the gift of the old slam dunk contest and the curse of the bastardized version of the slam dunk contest now. They introduced us to the Spencer Haywood hardship rule, where players no longer had to stay 4 years in the NBA anymore, in college anymore before they did that. They stole some of the best players from the NBA, such as Rick Barry. They also went ahead and stole the best referee in the NBA, too, Earl Strom. And for those that don't know about Earl Strom, let me just tell you some facts about him. If you ever saw the Game 7, Havlicek stole the ball. He actually reffed that game with a broken hand. And the reason why is because the previous game, he punched a fan in the face and broke his hand. He in 1970 in the ABA, he actually fought a fan on the court in the middle of it. Dick Bavetta, the guy that raced Charles Barkley at the All-Star game, he beat him up one time at the after a game because Dick Bavetta overturned one of his calls. Dick Bavetta was then seen running from the ref's locker room with a black eye, a ripped shirt, as Earl Strom said, "Change my call again, motherfucker." So there was that one. Jerry Colangelo, he fought him at the end of the game one time because Jerry Colangelo was staring at him, and he said, "I could take you." Then the fight was on. Then he fought the Hawks GM in the middle of the game once. He's the only rep ever to eject a coach from an all-star game. Red Auerbach in '67. He actually threw Benny the Bull, the Chicago Bulls mascot, out of a playoff game once in 1974. He even had a nickname. He was called the Pied Piper. He also told Frank Layden, the old coach of the Utah Jazz, they were getting blown out, and he was cursing at him, trying to get thrown out of the game. He goes, "Frank, I know what you're trying to do, and if I got to stay out here and watch this bullshit, well, so do you." You got any thoughts on Earl Strom, guys?
You sound like a gangster. That's my thoughts. He ain't
well,
going.
Anybody that's under 6 foot and always ready to scrap, you got to watch out for it.
This is true.
What about you, Double R? You got any thoughts on Earl Strom?
You know what? You guys are like breaking up real bad right now. I'm trying to hear you.
Oh no.
Well, until you get your stuff right, we'll keep
going.
But
I know who Earl Strom. He was a.
He was a what?
We can't hear you.
Oh, he was a fighting fool.
Yeah, he definitely was.
Oh, you can't hear me now?
We can't.
No, we can hear you. I think you're on a delay. So back to the merger. The Colonels and St. Louis Spirits were supposed to be absorbed into the NBA, but at the last moment they weren't. The Colonels actually received a one-time payment of $3.3 million for not being absorbed into the NBA, which is worth about $18 million now. The owner of the team, he actually then bought the Buffalo Braves, that are better known today as, anybody know?
You know what?
The Los Angeles Clippers. The St. Louis Spirits, they ended up getting a much better deal. What they did is they decided they wanted rights in perpetuity. Perpetuity means in forever. That they wanted 2% of the deal, which were they wanted 1/7 of every TV deal of the 7 remaining franchises left in the ABA, which requires about 2% of the merger. They also put a clause in there that all of their revenue is at a max of 28 teams. So that means when the league went to 30 and the revenue sharing split up even more, that means that they got a bigger piece of pie than all the other teams because they were doing it based off 28 teams instead of 30. They first started getting paid in 1980. They made about 500,000. By the end of their deal, they were making roughly 20 million a year. They made in total about 300 million, and then they sold it for a one-time settlement fee of 500 million. So they ended up making about 800 million off that deal.
That's super dope.
No, I mean it's dope, but that's what I mean. They had the fortuitous thought to take it to the next level, and so this league is going to be a TV deal, and they had the foresight to think of that. So I don't know what it would take to get a much better deal than that, but I mean 20 million a year to sit on your ass. What else could you possibly want?
Honestly, I don't even think you could get a better deal than that. And I'm sure the NBA learned from that. Ain't no way they're going to let somebody do that again.
The NBA tried to get out of the deal for years.
I'm sure. That's what I'm saying. So it's like what they did, they set some ground that no one else is going to probably break because they did that. How long ago they started that? What was that, the 70s?
76 was the merger. They didn't start getting paid till 1980.
But to be getting paid from the 80s all the way until
2014, I believe, is when the sale was.
Yeah, so
34 years. 34 years. They roughly made about 10 million a year, a little under 9 something per year to do nothing. One of the brothers died that owned the team. There's one left. I believe the first one died in 1932. So, like I said, I personally, would you have sold?
I mean, yeah. Well, here's the thing.
You would have sold for 500 mil.
Yeah, here's the thing though. Originally, they were only offering 3 million. So whoever got that, they more than likely out of that money. To make it to the point where you'd have made 500 mil, because I'm not a greedy person. So it's like if I would have made it that many decades and got up to 500 mil, I understand why a person wouldn't want to sell, because it's like, why do that when I can keep getting this money? But at the same time, it's like, to make that much money to not do anything, to just be chilling, like you said, to be sitting at the crib for decades, clocking 9 to 10 to however many million every year, yeah, I would have sold and just been chilling. Which, I mean, I'm sure that's what they was doing anyway, but it's just like, what you gonna do with all that money?
Well, the thing is this though: when you got the one-time payment at 3 million, you could buy a franchise. After making the 300 million, you couldn't buy a franchise in 2014 for 300 million. Maybe you could have bought the Bobcats or the something like that. But I mean, not no name brand, like not an LA market like the Clippers.
Fair.
So that's what I mean. Would you have sold to buy into the league and buy another team, or would you be cool just making that money and not buying anything?
It depends. Like, you feel me? Because let's see, 30 years later, so I'm already in my 30s. So it's like me getting 500 million and then turning 60. I'm good. I don't really need to do much. Like, just leave the family money. So I guess it depends on the state that my family was in, the state that I was in at that point in time. That will determine what my need is to keep clocking money.
What do you think, Double R? Would you have sold? Would you have kept that checks coming in, or what would you have done?
I probably would have did the same thing.
What is the same thing? Which one?
I can bet, man. It's just.
We got some technical difficulties with him, I guess.
It keeps on going in and out. I can't hear nothing.
Gotcha. Well, why don't you try backing out and coming back in and seeing if that works?
All I can hear is bits and pieces.
All right. Well, why don't you try backing out and then come back in and we'll see if that works.
So Tony, what would you have done? You would have kept getting the money for what, until you perpetuity, so until you die, basically, huh?
Well, right. No, what I would have done is I would have said, if you want me to sell my share, you guys really want me to get out of that, I need enough to buy a team. Simple as that.
So whatever the going rate was for a team, that's what you would have sold it for.
Plus a little extra.
Fair enough.
Plus a little extra. I mean, I'll put it this way: I don't want to sell for $1 billion. The team cost $1 billion. I got no money left. How am I going
Right.
to pay salaries? How am I going to pay? So, I mean, I need enough. I would do that because, I mean, as we're seeing the leagues just making money hand over fist, I would much rather have that. And that's just where I'm at. You know what I mean? Because it's it's an exclusive club. Only 30 people say they own a team. Maybe there's different levels or whatever. They're minority orders.
Mhm.
Things like that. But yeah, I would much rather own the team. You know what I mean? Because I mean, right now, you sell it for $2 billion. I would rather have 2 billion than 500 million. But that's just where I'm at.
Yeah.
I don't know where you're at, but that's where I'm at. But
I mean, again, it obviously 2 million is way better than have. I mean, 2 billion is way better than having 500 million, obviously. But at the same time, it's like, again, like, I don't have nothing I want to spend 2 billion on unless I was getting a team. But obviously, that ain't gonna be enough either. But how I feel about it is, I get it. Like, to each his own. Like, I'm not gonna knock anybody that kept getting the money. I'm not gonna knock anybody that, so especially not the way you're putting it. Like, somebody that's like, okay, give me enough to start my own team and be able to play my players. So I can't knock anybody for thinking like that. I don't know that I want to personally own a team. So that's another reason why I'm like, I probably would have just, cut my ties and just been chilling.
obviously they did want to own a team though.
Damn,
So
I
I'm
don't
saying
want to
going their route, huh?
going their route. Yeah, going their route, then yeah, they would have they probably should have kept getting the money like they had been doing, or like you were saying, cut another deal because obviously they got a mouthpiece on them to even get what they got. They got a piece on them, so they could have worked that mouth again, or the brother that was still alive could have worked that mouth again and went ahead and got everything together and got a team and everything up out of the deal. It's
I got
just
you.
it's so much. It's so much to deal with trying to own a team. I don't need that headache. And I definitely don't need that headache after 30 years.
And I understand your point too. I'm just saying, I guess it depends what you want to do. Obviously,
Mhm.
800 million, no complaints, but it depends what you want to do. And I just think since they had the leverage, I think they should have maxed it out. Because if the NBA
Yeah.
had the leverage, they'd max it out.
Oh, NBA milking. Whatever they can get, they gonna do it. That's any one of these teams. That's any one of these, big league. That's what they gonna do with you. So
So
that's
I got a question for you. Moving on from this subject,
yeah.
have you seen the meme going around about the most unbreakable records right now in sports?
The most unbreakable records? No,
Yeah,
not yet.
they got like Wilt's 100-point game, Cal Ripken's consecutive game streak play, things like that.
Hold up. Speaking of Wilt, though, all right. Speaking of Wilt's record, with all of these dudes going and dropping 70 and dropping all of these crazy numbers, can like back to back to back within like the same season. Because I remember when Kobe hit his 81, and I remember, I don't know how long ago this was, but I remember when they were having a conversation and they were asking different players, like, do you think Wilt's record is ever going to get broke? They asked multiple players. Every player said no until they got to Kobe. Kobe said, of course, like, why not? And now we're seeing like, yo, Kobe was right. Somebody finna break that record. I don't know who it's gonna be, and I'm gonna laugh if it's a point guard, but somebody gonna break that record. Who you think can do? First of all, do you think somebody can break it?
I don't think anybody. I don't think anybody's going to break it unless that is the entire. You'd have to schedule your game plan around that.
The
Like
teams
you'd
will
have
be
to say
on
we're
board.
going in to break the record, and
Okay.
then it's just. I mean, I don't know. So to me, Kobe's 81 is the most impressive. It's the 62 through three quarters because he was on a much higher pace to score point. He should have scored 83, 84, something like that. The pace that he was on, and he outscored the Mavs. So the
Mm.
one man to outscore a team in three quarters, that was a much more impressive. Yo, we got you on now. Can you hear us or no? You frozen?
Double
So,
R.
that's what I'm saying. So no, I don't think anybody, because you look at someone like Kobe, the closest person to it, he's only 81% of the way there. That's a big jump. You're 1/5 of the way not there. You're only 4/5 of the way there. So I don't think anybody's going to break the scoring record unless that's what it's game planned for. I remember I was listening to KG and Paul Pierce talk. Well, KG was talking about how Embiid had 70 points in 37 minutes. Well, 100 points over 48 minutes is over 2 points per minute. 70 points over 37 minutes, that's not even 2 points per minute. So even if he played the other 11 minutes, he would have scored at that rate 19 points, 89 points. So can I say it's impossible to break it? I'm not going to say it's impossible, but the likelihood of, it's been around now for, it was set in what, 62, March of 62. It's been on now for 62 years, basically, and nobody's come close. Close when someone's come, it's 4/5. I'll put it this way. It's 20 points away from a record. Is that even really close?
I guess it depends on what the record is.
What I'm saying is 80 really close to 100?
Not when a point system is ones, twos, and threes. No,
and that's what I mean. A whole 19 points. I'll put it this way: if people score 19 points in the NBA, that alone is a hell of a feat. 19 points in the NBA, that is a big jump. That is a huge jump.
So let me ask you this. Let's say you get a player like with the shooting ability and like, I guess the style of play of like, let's say a KD, a Steph, even a Dame, and it's third quarter and they already got like 80 points, and then their team actually ends up going to overtime as well. You still think that record is unbreakable at that pace?
No. I still think, no. At that point, absolutely not. But name the player that's got 80 points through three quarters. And that's where it lies. But I'll tell you what, that's not even, what's crazy to me is nobody even talked about the most unbreakable record. And I'll be honest with you, basketball is clearly the sport I know the best. I watch other sports and stuff like that. But from what I know from basketball, the most unbreakable record in out of anybody is Wilt's all-time rebounding record. Do you realize how many rebounds this dude has? And you only get one at a time. You don't get free rebounds. You don't get 3 point. You don't get 3 rebounds per one. You don't get 2. You don't get none of that. This dude has 1 rebound. Do you realize what that is?
What is his? First of all, what is his record?
23,924 rebounds. And just for some perspective, let me tell you that's more rebounds than Barkley has points. Wade has points. Baylor has points. Steph Curry has points. Clyde Drexler has points. Larry Bird has points. As well as David Robinson has points. I mean, I keep going, but you get what I'm saying? I mean, you got Hall of Famers,
yeah, but the game was different back then.
What's that got to do with being? But I agree that it's going to be different. That it's different.
He was the most dominant player. Well, nobody's going to break that record.
No, and that is why that is the most. Here, I'll put it this way: out of all the players that have been drafted in the last 50 years, Tim Duncan is the closest, the absolute closest to coming to breaking that record, and he's about 9,000 rebounds short. Guys like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Go ahead.
Well, you got to think about it. Wilt Chamberlain in his day, he was the biggest, tallest, fastest, baddest dude back then. In what's his name? Tim Duncan.
Bill Russell.
Bill Russell. But Tim Duncan, everybody was as tall as him, so it wasn't the same kind of game. You know what I mean?
Well, I will say this. I do know this for a fact. I do know the average height in the NBA is 6'6". And the average height in the 1960s for an NBA player was 6'6".
Yeah, but he wasn't average. He was taller than that, wasn't he?
I'm not saying that, but I'm saying the average heights were the same. Well, there's never been a time in the NBA where short players
not the skill. The skill players. I mean, today's game, like I said, from back then, it's totally different. I mean, the skill today is unreal.
The athleticism, I think that was really key. The fact that he was way more athletic than his competitors, so it made it easy. It's kind of like we put you, Tony, on the court with a bunch of, let's say, a bunch of 13-year-olds. You about to get mad.
I do that all the time for ego boosts.
That's what I'm saying. You
I dominate them all the time.
So it's like, you feel me? And I feel like that's almost, not to disrespect them, because these dudes are legends in their rights, and they were professional athletes and everything like that. But as far as the competition level for him at that point in time, it was probably like that for him, just getting on the court with a bunch of like kids or even teenagers, and he just
just dominated. Yeah.
So I'm not saying that's the only reason. I'm not saying that's the only reason, but I feel as though that is a huge factor in why he was able to do that. And that's not to take away from it. I just feel like that is definitely a factor there.
Well, a lot of people don't realize Wilt had a full ride scholarship based off track and field. And do you know what event he excelled in?
Don't tell me the high jump.
The high jump. The high jump. A 7'1" dude is the best in the state at the high jump.
Well, that don't surprise me.
Oh,
so that's where that comes. But that's why it's the most unbreakable record. And I don't know why anybody doesn't give that credit.
You know what I just thought about when you said that?
Hmm.
Tall dudes, you know how, all right, when a tall dude dunks, you're like, yo, he went up high. Well, the commentators and everybody's like, yo, he went up high and everything like that. But when they're tall, how high do they really jump? So now I'm like questioning, like, how high are these dudes that are like 7 feet? How high is how high is they vert?
I would say between 24 and 30 inches. I would say the top 7-footers have a between, and now maybe some outliers like Dwight Howard or something like. I mean, obviously he ain't 7 feet. You know, those are
crazy.
Right. But I'm just saying, Amari got up. I don't know how many players, really got up like that are actually over 7 feet. But I would say between 24 and 30 inches. Because,
I'm like, really?
The body's just different at that height.
Because imagine Wemby. Imagine Wemby with MJ's vert.
Man,
they need like 14-foot rims.
Yeah, at least.
Like that'd be nuts, bro. Anyway, back to your point. I'm sorry, I kind of got off.
No. But what I'm saying is why do you think the all-time rebounding record nobody ever gives that credit for as the most unbreakable record? If nobody in 50 years have got closer than 9,000 rebounds, that's entire career.
Well, I have an answer as to why I think nobody mentions it. I think because people focus more on points. Not that that's not a crazy record. Not that that's not a super dope.
But hold on, wait. But in these records that they're given though, like I said, they're doing games and they're doing all kinds of things and they're doing different things. You know what I mean? That one of the records was the Celtics 8 straight titles. That has nothing to do with points or anything like that. So I'm saying they did a multitude of records and nobody considered the rebound record. So I understand on the points thing, like why people bring up the 100-point game of Wilt. But I'll put it this way. Like you were saying, somebody could catch fire, in one game and beat the 100-point record or something like that. Somebody could game plan for it. Who's going to catch fire for 20-something years to catch the Wilt rebound? Just for example, Kareem played 500 more games than him, has 6,000 less rebounds.
Yeah, somebody would have.
And Kareem's taller.
Somebody would have to go into the league. They would have to go into the league, just like you were saying. They would have to go into the game, wanting to get 100 points or having their team on board to help them surpass that. Somebody would have to go in the league thinking, I'm about to break his record. I think that's how.
But I mean, I don't know. It seemed like Dwight Howard was on that tip for a while, and then he fell about 10,000 rebounds short.
Oh no, Kobe said the white is soft. So to me, what that kind of means is like it's kind of like the Shaq thing, where it's like you're super talented, but you don't want to work out, you don't want to apply yourself at times and stuff like that. And if that's the case, I don't know that he necessarily wanted to break the record. Whether or not he might have thought that he was on pace for it is something different, but I don't know if he actually wanted to, because you can't slack on not that record. You no days off for that one.
What about you, Double R? You think that's the most unbreakable record in basketball, or do you think there's something else?
At this point, probably, yeah. And there's a few reasons, because those guys now, like today's game, like I said, they have a lot of injuries. You know what I mean? The game's faster. I mean, a lot more skill that's opposed to back then. And that's probably the main reason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the only thing that I could think of that. That's the only thing I could think of that would be up there with it would be the Stockton's all-time steal records. Because if you look at back when Stockton played, people were averaging 3.5, 3.7 steals, and now the league leaders are 1.9, 2.0, 2.1, roughly about half, or at least 1/3 less than what Stockton was doing, because of the eliminating the hand checking rule and things like that. You can't control your defender as much, especially above the foul line.
Yeah.
Because that's so. I mean, does anybody have any other records? I mean, is that what we're going with? Do you think the rebounding one is the most unbreakable?
I mean, your argument is compelling. I ain't gonna even try. Because I can't honestly.
Off the top of my head, I can't think.
Who's the closest to him?
Well, the closest one to him is Bill Russell with about 1,400 less. Then after that,
1400
yeah, but that was Bill Russell in that range, and then after that, it's Kareem with 6,000 left, with
Okay.
6,000 less.
So let me think. Records, steals records. Somebody's always gonna be able to do that. Blocks. Let's see. Even the threes, somebody's probably gonna catch stuff.
Yeah,
That's on
but the steals right now without the hand check, that's what I was just saying. They're doing about half the numbers Stockton was in Stockton's time. Like Alvin Robertson led the league, set the career record with 3.7 steals a game. And like I said, people are winning it now at 2.0 a game.
That don't matter though. I'm gonna tell you why that doesn't matter. Or at least not to me. The reason why that doesn't matter so much to me is because that doesn't change a defensive-minded player. So let's say most people are only getting or averaging like a steal or two a game. That doesn't change the fact that if you out there and you a beast, you could still average like 6-7 steals and say, forget them. This is what I'm on. I'm on lockdown.
But nobody's ever averaged 6-7 steals. How can you do that? Nobody's ever done that we
You
know of.
can do
I mean,
it
maybe
just 'cause-
before they kept them.
I mean, just because no one's done it doesn't mean they can't do it. You feel me? No one had ever dunked until they started dunking. No one ever shot a three until they started hitting them. You feel me? So it's like,
Okay, but this is what I'm saying. The jump that you're doing, the career high is 3.7, right? And you said 6-7, so 7's almost double. That'd be like the career being the career point per game is Wilt's at 50 a game, right? So that'd be like, well, somebody could average 90, they just haven't done it yet. Well, to go from one level to almost double, that's crazy.
I threw a number out though. Like, you feel me? So
Yeah.
you feel me? So if the record is, let's say the record is, what'd you say, two?
The record is 3.7 steals a game on
All right,
average.
so the record,
Alvin Robertson back in the 80s.
I still feel as though somebody could come in and average 4. And if they do that over their career, you feel me? They'll break that record if they have at least a healthy career. If they have a career of, I'll say probably like maybe 18 years with 4 a game, they might beat that record. Especially if they
might, but like I said, we've never seen that. We have never seen that. I don't know. Like I said, I can't see a fathom. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say we never saw LeBron James until we saw LeBron James, though. You feel me? That kid that's gonna break that record is probably on the court right now.
But here's the thing about LeBron James, as far as that, LeBron James and he's not gonna set no other record other than the all-time scoring record. And I'm not saying that's not a big record. That's the biggest record we got. But I'm just saying he wasn't burning it up, in a scoring like that. He just consistently averaged that 25 a game, 27,
But that's kind of what I'm talking about, though. At the same time, somebody can average like 4 steals a game. They can.
Well, I think more so your thing would be like somebody consistently just averages like 2.5 for 15, 20 years.
I mean, that too, yeah. Because remember, I said 8 to 10 years. But yeah, if this person is like in the double digits, they make it in the league for like 13, 14, 15, or as long as like LeBron, then yeah, averaging 2.5 or 3 a game, they're gonna get that record. Especially
go ahead.
Especially if they're averaging or if they're setting out to average what the record is. So you feel me? If they're setting out to get as many steals as whatever the record is, yeah, they're gonna shatter it.
What do you think, Double R? You think anybody can break that? You think anybody can do that?
I don't see it happening. Not anytime soon, anyway. Everybody's everybody wants to score. Everybody wants to score. Nobody wants to play no D. That's the game. That's the way I see it. I don't think that we'll see another like a Stockton or the Glove. Them type of players that's what they used to do. They were all about the D and taking over games, stealing the ball and getting it to their teammates. I mean, I don't think we'll see that. Not in this. Like I said, not anytime soon.
Well, let's talk about a negative record. Something you don't want to be in the record books for. What do you think the oddest negative record is?
The oddest
flops.
Well, who's got the record?
Bloody Divox, probably.
Does
nah. No way. I mean, he might have started it, but people have took that way to another level or whatever.
Oh
So I'm
man.
gonna I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna tell you what I think. I'm gonna tell you what I think the wildest one is to me. It's the Yinka Dare longest ever to get an assist record. This dude played parts of 3 seasons, and it wasn't until his 78th game he got an assist.
How many points was he
How
scoring?
how
First of all,
how was he in the league?
how many minutes was he playing?
I mean, he wasn't playing. I mean, he occasionally started or whatever, but he was primarily a backup. So I mean, he wasn't playing very many minutes. You
But
know,
when
I
you
think
say
the first season he played something like 8 minutes a game. You know, I think the next season it bumped up to somewhere around like 18 or something like that. He was in the
nah,
rotation.
that's too many minutes to not get an assist.
Right, he
For
was in the
real.
rotation.
Because my next question was about to be how many points was he scoring? Like, because I'm like,
He
if
wasn't
you
scoring
ain't
many
getting
either.
no assists, you got to be scoring or riding the bench.
Yeah, well,
And
what are
like,
you? Yeah, what are you doing? Just standing there,
he out there running. He just out there
just
running.
running around? Yeah, setting picks. I mean, some's
No,
got to
that's
give.
Or are you just bad at passing? Are you waiting until
he was
there's like
extremely
3
bad at
seconds on
passing.
the
You
shot?
can't go 78 games with no assists and not be bad at passing.
Fair enough.
There's no
Fair
way in
enough.
78 games it's everybody's fault but yours.
Yeah, you know what? I don't even know how he was in the league that long.
So, hey, I mean, here at the Hoop Historians, that's what we do over here. We're dropping dimes like Dare.
Obviously not. That's crazy
Oh
though.
man.
No, it is, but you know, he's one. I mean, I guess he's one of those. You know, he was good in college. You know, he came to the league. You know, and he's just he's another like almost guy. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I mean, he had a couple of years. He was in there. He played for the Nets. You know, and just didn't translate well, especially now. You know what I mean? It's much more passing. I'll tell you one thing. You know, like you said, nobody wants to play D. It's a much more ball movement league. That's what took the Warriors to the next level with Steve Kerr. He hired somebody, they monitored with Mark Jackson, and they found out the year before Steve Kerr got there, the the Warriors were the least passing team in the league. They made the least amount of passes out of all the teams in the league. So they took the ball out of Steph's hands. They did more ball movement. So yeah, so Yinka Dare, you know, he was in the 90s. He wouldn't translate well to this league because even Rudy Gobert gets assists. And all that.
Right?
I mean,
Hey, let's talk. Go ahead.
now I was just gonna say, I see people get off the bench and get an assist within like the first few seconds. Like I've seen a person literally pass the ball in, get down the court, get the ball back, open, automatic assist. Like, how do you go years with no assists? How does this even happen?
Yeah, I got to see some video on that. I
Well, I
literally
mean,
have to see some video on that.
well, I'll tell you what. I mean, I ain't even got the answer, Sway.
Not
So
even an
I don't
accidental
know.
assist. He couldn't pull an accidental assist. That's
In his
crazy.
78th game, he did. In his 78th game, he
Yeah.
did.
Well, let me ask you
But
this: how many did he finish in his career?
not many. I don't know how many he finished his career. Not many. I mean, he only played a couple years and all that.
That's what
Not
I want to
many.
know. That's what
Not
I want to
many.
know.
Yeah, not
Hey,
many. I mean, I'll put it this way. Once he got his first one, you know, they started rolling in after that. But yeah, not many. But I want to transition to this. Okay,
yeah.
I think we all remember the. I want to talk about almost. That's a subject here I want to talk about. I want to talk about a lot of teams because moving forward, a lot of people know the history. They know about the champions. They know about the dynasties. They know, but there's a lot of good teams that didn't make it, and I think they would have won titles in other eras. You know, they just happened to run into another team that was better than them. So I really want to talk about. You know, I'm going to start calling these segments almost. I really want to start talking about that. So let's go with the 90 Sonics, for example, and specifically from 92 to 98. These dudes won what? 4 Pacific Division championships. They won in the 93 season, they won 55 wins. They won 63 wins in 94. They won 57 in 95. 96, that's when they won 64 and they went to the finals. And then in 90
They didn't win the title though.
no, that's why this segment's
That's
called
almost.
Almost. So yeah, and then in 97 they won 57 games again. 98 they won 61. I think this team really was, I don't know if they're the greatest in this, but they're certainly up there. I think they had the greatest collection of talent that wasn't superstar talent throughout that 6-year run. They had guys like, I'll just run through them real quick. They had guys like Dana Barrows, that's an all-star. They had Benoit Benjamin, he averaged a double-double. They had Michael Cade, he was a rebounding champ. They had Eddie Johnson, who was a sixth man of the year and once averaged 22 points in 29 minutes. They had Derek McKee,
Yeah.
an all-defensive player. They had Nate McMillan. He was a
Nate
steals champ, and
McMillan.
all-defensive player.
Yep.
They had Sam Perkins, a guy that was drafted over Charles Barkley. They had Ricky Pierce, another all-star. They had Kendall Gill, another steals champ, all-defensive player guy. They had Irvin Johnson, another guy who gets you a double-double. I mean, not a double-double, but he was a double-double rebound, a double-digit rebounding guy. Detlef Shrimp, an all-NBA player. Hershey Hawkins, an all-star player. Eric Snow, an all-defensive player. Terry Cummings, all-NBA. Jerome Kersey, dude who averaged 19 and 8. And then
Jerome Kersey.
They had their stars that was like Vin Baker, Sean Kemp. Yeah, that's who they traded Kemp for. Traded Kemp for Baker. Well, the Sonics, I guess they decided, like, look, we don't want cocaine in the locker room. We want alcoholism. So they traded, Sean Kemp for Vin Baker. One's legal, one's not. And then Gary Payton.
I'll take the cokehead over the alcoholic on a basketball court, personally.
You have more energy.
Well, all I can say is that, if you'd rather have a cokehead than a alcoholic, that's completely your deal. I would prefer neither. If to be honest with you, I would have traded. I would have traded him for anybody. So that's my question though. Out of everybody on there, you see the talent. They had a top, 75 player in Gary Payton. Like I said, they were constantly winning. They were built around defense with George Carlin. They were very serious about their defense. So my question is, over those 6 years, why don't you think they won it?
Well, the level of competition. All right, so a couple of things that you said. And before I answer the question, let me ask this. Out of everybody you named, Gary's the only one that's the top 75, right?
Correct.
Are anybody top 100s?
I mean, I wouldn't have any of these players as top 100s.
Okay,
but
so the reason I asked that question and where I was going with it is, I think that has something to do with it. They have all of this talent, but at the same time, they don't have those superstars or those I don't want to say they don't have the dogs, because obviously they had the dogs that had the kind of record they did, but it sounds like they didn't really have the players that could actually take them further than just being a good team. It didn't sound like they had the players that can take them to the level of being a champion. Like,
can I sidebar that really quick? Sure. So like the 94 Rockets, in that era, they only had one top 75 player too, and Hakeem.
Hakeem.
But hold on. But their roster wasn't nearly as good either. Hakeem was better than Peyton, but their entire roster after that, like Otis Thorpe was your second best player. Would you rather have Otis Thorpe or Sean Kemp? Would you rather have Vernon Maxwell or Detlef Shrimp? Like, just down the roster, everybody was better after that.
Honestly, bro, it's a personnel thing for me, because what I think about is not just the talent, but I also think of like matchups. I think of like who's ready. I think of like who has the heart. I think of like stuff like that. I think of like who's a good closer. So things like that, who can dominate and take over a game when we absolutely need it to be done. So when I think about stuff like that, for me, I'm taking the Rockets. I'm taking their team. I'm taking their lineup over the Sonics. So I said that. Oh,
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say. So I said that to say, I mean, I feel as though they were a good team. They just weren't a great team. Like, they had some success. You feel me? But in watching the NBA, I see plenty of teams that might have successful seasons, but it's like, you already know they're not going to win no titles.
That's how you always felt about the Sonics. You never considered them a real contender to win the title.
I never thought the Sonics was going to win a title. Not in the 90s.
In the 90s, they were like Showtime.
They were dumb.
I mean, and I can't figure out how they didn't win a title. The only time I can say that why they didn't win a title is when they played Jordan. That's why that year. And the other times, I just can't figure it out, because they were like the first team in the 90s to be doing the fast break, the alley-oops, Sean Kemp was just throwing it down, just ridiculous.
I'll agree with you on that. I'll agree with you. The Peyton to Kemp alley-oop play was one of the highlights of the 90s. It was definitely the alley-oop of the 90s.
So
Kemp was a walking
Did you
highlight
think
I
they
reel.
could win a
always,
title?
Huh?
yeah, they should have. They should have. I mean, they to me, they were like the Suns. The Suns always had that good team. They made a good run, and then they just fell apart in the playoffs. For some
That's what I was
reason,
looking.
it was the same thing with Seattle. The same exact thing. I mean, I watched highlight after highlight of them, and all they do is go behind the back. I mean, fast break, and yeah, they were like people
Well,
didn't
hold on,
want
hold
to
on.
play them. Teams didn't want to play them.
Well, Neek, let me ask you this: if everybody says defense wins championships, there was nobody more defensive oriented, I don't think, than them. They had just nothing but dogs on, especially in the backcourt. Especially in the backcourt with Kendi Gill, Gary Payton, Nate McMillan. I mean, we got 3 steal champs, 3 members of the All D team.
Okay.
Oh, wait, and an Eric
Yeah,
Snow.
But here's the thing: when they say defense wins championships, they're talking about a defensive mind. They're not just saying sticking defense win championships because it's called basketball. It's not called D-ball. You feel me? So it's like you have to actually score. So if no matter how great your defense is, if somebody scores on you, that's getting them closer to winning that game. So I say that to say, as good as their defense was, clearly they didn't lock teams down. You feel me? I mean, they may have locked players down, but they didn't lock teams down. So it was like they may have had good defense, but they must have been falling short on offense. Somebody wasn't putting the ball in the hole on their end for them to lose.
I
Well,
think too they were too cocky. And that one series against Denver, against the 8, when Denver shocked them, when Mutombo and Denver got them, that was they led them back into that series, and that was one
well, they
year
were
that
up
they
2-0.
should have won. Yeah, that's right.
Was this one in a 3-5 series or was this one in a
Yeah.
4-7?
It was one of the 5-game series. They were
Yeah,
up 2-0, and then they lost the last 3. Mutombo holding the ball at the end. It's got that iconic image,
yeah,
where he's sitting there doing that.
yeah,
That's where
yeah.
they won Game 5. So, no, to speak what you were saying of the offense. So here's the problem with the Sonics with me, and I'll say this. But before I go into this, I want to say this. Just to give you an example of who they beat. They beat a Kevin Garnett Marbury Timberwolves team in this run, the 6 years run. They beat a Jason Kidd-led Suns team. They beat a Mitch Richmond Kings team. They beat Hakeem and Clyde Drexler Rockets team. They ended the Rockets back to back. Their bid for the 3rd straight title. They're the ones that ended that. They also beat Hakeem by himself one year. They beat Malone and Stockton twice. But some of the losses, they lost to the Shaq-led Lakers, 2nd year Kobe. They lost to the first year the Rockets got Barkley. They lost to them in 7. They lost to obviously the Bulls. They also lost, like you said, to Mutombo's Nuggets. They lost to Barkley Suns. And then their worst loss to me, besides that Nuggets one, was the 95. They lost to the Lakers, a team led of like Vlade Divas, Nick Van Exel, Cedric Ceballos.
Was that when they had they had Eddie on that team? Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember that.
it was Eddie's rookie year.
Oh,
Yeah, I
did
remember
they
that.
have
Eddie
did they
Jones'
have Van
I
rookie
know
year.
Exel?
that because that's when I started liking. I was loving that. That's funny.
Did they have Van Exel that year? The Lakers?
Yeah, yeah.
Did they have who? Yeah,
Van
they
No,
had Van
Exel.
Exel.
Van Exel.
Yeah,
Okay,
they
yeah,
had
the
Van Exel that
Good
alien.
year.
old lefty. Good old lefty.
Right. So this is what I was going to say. So the line is defensive wins championship, and through my studies, that's not necessarily the case. Really, what runs championships is a dominant score. You look at all the best scorers in the league. That generally speaking, they have titles. Since the 3-point lines came out, everybody that's ever won an NBA title has had a player that's averaged 25 points on their season, on their team in a season. They don't necessarily have to average 25 points that year. Like, for example, in 03, Tim Duncan averaged 23 a game, but he could get you 25, 30 if that's what you needed. Gary Payton, he never got up to over 25. Here, I'll give you a real crazy fact. Sean Kemp never once averaged 20 points with the Seattle Supersonics.
I know.
Never once. Not until he got to Cleveland.
That's why I was blasphemous. They wanted to
Wow.
trade the Bulls for Kemp. Like that was nuts to me, man. Anyway,
The Pippen for Kemp deal.
yeah, that was ridiculous to me. That was asinine. But my bad.
Well, do you like how the Sonics they already had Pippen? They traded him for Olden Polynice back in '87. So they could have had a Peyton, Pippen, and Kemp trio.
Now I ain't gonna front though. Now that team would have did damage though.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, how could they not? because I mean, you got arguably the best small forward defensive. You got the best backcourt defensively. I mean, like I said, it's locking teams down.
Yeah, yeah. Now that's that kind of defensive mind state that may win a championship. But yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you this: is there any other era that you think that if you would have took that team and transported it to a different era, they'd be winning titles?
Yeah, I would say now.
Era.
I would say right now, the '96 Sonics would win a title in this era.
Oh,
no,
that's crazy.
No,
I would say that. I would say that because they play like they do today.
Uh-huh.
And I think they would give teams
three ball like that. They were shooting three ball for that time, but they weren't shooting three ball like that. It's just hard to outscore threes with twos. And I'll put it this way: they're used to hand checking with their defense. How are they going to defend?
Yeah, because
they would have to get used to some new rules. Put it like that. But I think they would give teams fits.
I mean, these are they're dope, so they're gonna do what they do.
Well, Perkins, who was one of the original big stretch fives. So they were one of the first teams to have a stretch five with Sam Perkins.
Mm-hmm.
But so Nick, obviously you don't think they could win in this era, do you?
No, I don't. I think, yeah, I don't. I think.
What about in the '80s? What about in the '80s? Could they beat Magic's Lakers, Birds, Celtics?
The '80s, yes. I could see them. I could see that team from the '90s winning in the '80s. Yes, I don't see that team from the '90s winning now.
See, I disagree with that too, because if they played the teams in the '80s, those good solid teams, those were real solid teams right there. And don't get me wrong, Seattle was too, but I don't think they could hang with them in a 7-game series. I think it'd be the same thing.
So you think if they went back in time they wouldn't be winning, but if they go forward in time they would.
If they go forward, yeah, just
because you think they're just
my
tougher.
logic.
You just think they're tougher.
Yeah, I think they're smarter, and I think they're more athletic.
You think the '90s Sonics are more athletic than nowadays players?
Not all of them. I'm talking like the main core. They had a lot more physical players. I mean, you think about it. There was the '90s. They had nothing but beasts on their team. And in today's game, I think that they would be bullying them like the Embiids and Philadelphia, and you know what I mean. They don't have no solid point guard. What do they got? You know what I mean? I just think that they would have a hard time. Teams of today would have a hard time beating the '90s Sonics.
Okay, so here's why I disagree with that. I feel as though, first of all, they wouldn't be prepared for the way that the players handle the ball these days. Like as much of a lockdown defender as Gary Payton was, I think Kyrie would have his way with that Sonics team still. And I think
you need to watch some film. I need to watch some film of the '96 Sonics and that their highlight reel. I think you would disagree. I think you would give them a little bit more credit.
Well, I'm gonna tell you this much. I'm not
tending to take credit from them. That's not what I'm doing. I'm more so giving credit to the players of this era. I'm letting it be known that these players of this era, though they may be soft in nature, skill wise, they got it. And I think that
don't get me wrong. I think everybody in the league right now has handles. Every player. There's not one player on every team that ain't shaking somebody every game.
But it wouldn't.
And every player pretty much has a shot too.
That's where I was going to go. I was going to say it's not just the handles.
That's true. That's true.
I brought up the handles to segue into the shot because that handle is going to get you open, and then you got players that shooting as soon as they cross half court. The best defense of the world ain't stopping that. How do you guard Steph? You got to throw the whole team.
Good O always beats good D.
Good O beats good D.
So yeah, like I said, I'm gonna have to go with Neek on this one. Like I said, I could see them winning in the '80s. I think they have a much better shot. But like for example, I'll just use this. The '93 Sonics lost to a Suns led team by Charles Barkley. His pregame meal was two Big Macs. He had no nutritionist. He didn't work out. He didn't do nothing.
That really
Hey,
doesn't matter. I mean,
hey, put him
that
on
was
the coke
just
and
he
be
was
healthy.
hungry. He was just hungry. Come on.
I'm not saying that he wasn't hungry. What I'm saying is if you have guys that aren't taking care of their body
No
beating you,
conditioning.
these guys are on sleep schedules. They got nutritionists, personal trainers. You know, back in the 90s, you know, Jordan was one of the few people lifting weights, working out, you know, pre-workout and all that. Nobody's really lifting weights. Everybody's lifting weights now. Watch Steph Curry in a workout flex out. Dude's got some arms when he's working out. You wouldn't even believe it. You know what I mean? They weren't built like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Now, I'm not saying they weren't physical. I guess what I'm saying is, how can I put this? I think the Sonics would have a much better shot of beating a nowadays team who played with the 90s rules, but I think they have an absolutely no shot playing in today's current rule.
Okay.
Because, hey, and speaking of rules, let's go into our next segment. Let's talk about the rules that changed the game. So to me, with this new NBA, to me, it really started in 04-05. It started in 04-05 with three big things. You guys tell me where I'm right, tell me where I'm wrong. The biggest thing was no hand checking. There's no hand checking now above the foul line. Can't impede anybody, anything like that. We saw scoring rise. That's one. The second thing was the 8-second half court. It used to be 10 seconds. Now it's 8 seconds. Think of how many more possession that speeds up the game, because now you're 2 seconds more every possession. You got to be 2 seconds more into your offense. Quicker, faster. Let's do that. The shot clock, and that wasn't in the 04-05, but the shot clock not resetting to a full 24 seconds, only 14, but that's another story. And then finally, the 7 seconds or Suns. 7 seconds or less Suns. They were the first team ever to be hitting 10 threes a game, 30 points from the three. And those are the three things to me that changed into the modern NBA. I mean, you guys agree, disagree? Where are we at on this?
You forgot the Euro step and all the traveling they do now. But no, those ain't rules. But that changed the game as well. For the rules.
What I'm saying is when Ginobili got there in 02-03 and really started showing. I mean, he was the first one that we all really recognized with the Euro step. The league didn't start changing in 02-03. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that there wasn't anything, but I'm saying 04-05 is where the current 04-05 was the first time with the Suns where I saw fast breaks, players running to the corner threes. And instead of going for a layup, they're shooting threes on a fast break. 3-on-1, we'll shoot an open three. I had never seen that before. Anybody else?
Yeah, they always had some 3-point shooters back then.
The Suns always, in my opinion, I think the Suns always had some killers from the three. The point you were making though about the half
Big
court.
Pontiac, I agree. Sarunas Marcelonis, he did do the Euro step. Keep going.
But as far as making it to half court, because so many players these days won't even pick up the ball until the defender gets near them, I don't know how much that necessarily affects the offense these days. Like, I get the point you were making with it forces you to have
2 extra seconds every possession. How many more possessions do you think that is through a game? There's about 4 possessions per quarter, per minute. And now we have 8 extra seconds every minute. 8 seconds, times 48. That's what? That's 384.
What happens when I let the ball just roll? What happens when I let the ball roll all the way to half court before I pick it up? That 8 seconds.
Stupid.
Huh?
I said I find that stupid.
No. Don't get me wrong.
Nobody's guarding you.
They do it though. Whether it's stupid or not, don't change the fact they do it. So I'm saying the fact that players do it, like they picked up on, you know what, we can just do this. So I'm like, I don't think that really cuts into the offense now, because they're doing stuff like that. Like they can count
and maybe so, but I'm saying it sped up the game. We saw possessions rise. Possessions per game rose after the 04-05 season, and that's where I think we played. Like I said, I think the Suns were the Warriors in infancy.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. They're like baby Warriors. That's where the Warriors kind of started modeling their stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, you can look at Steph and tell he was a Nash man. Oh wait, what Suns are you talking? Yeah, you can look.
Yeah, the Nash led ones. Yeah,
you can tell he's a Nash man.
I'll agree with that. So that's where I was at. Let's close it. We're getting towards the end and all that. Let's talk about some classic kicks. Some classic kicks, bro. So you were in Chicago in the 90s.
Okay.
You were in Chicago in the 90s. You were literally in the Jordan capital of the world. and the most
Okay.
hottest Jordan was, you know, in the 90s, winning titles and all that. What was everybody rocking in like Shy, you know what I mean, besides Jays?
So and Shy, they were rocking Iversons. Matter of fact, they're rocking these. It's not even the same color. They was rocking these, the white and blue questions. These is the white and
Oh, that's
gray.
before we got the answer. We gotta have the question before the
Oh,
answer.
I got the questions. You feel me? Oh, you want the answers? Oh, we had the answers too. Hold up. Yeah, we had the answers too. Not this color, but yeah. But yeah. So aside from Iverson, because Chicago, you know, a lot of Chicago loved Iverson. We got pennies. A lot of pennies was being worn out there. A lot of
Which pennies was it? Which penny was it in the 95-96 season? Because those were the ones I really wanted. Those ones were hot.
the 95-96. Hold up.
Is that the ones or the twos?
I want to say I think those were the ones, but hold on, let me
It
double check.
was one with Little Penny.
Those were the ones. 95 was the ones.
Oh,
Those were the
I
ones.
remember which ones you're talking. I can't remember which ones they were.
Little Penny. Y'all remember that commercial when Little Penny was like, "Tell Kevin Garnett that Little Penny from the Science Club said, can you do that for a player?" Y'all remember that?
No, I do remember that. And that's what I'm saying. Chris Rock was killing those videos.
Yo,
what else was hot?
When I first seen it, I don't know if y'all remember the movie Tales from the Hood, but when I first seen
Yeah,
Lil Penny,
absolutely.
I'm like, yo, they got one of the dolls from
Oh
Tales
my
from the Hood.
God, yes. Because
Oh,
well, you know, you could say it, but not me. You know what I mean? But when dude was
yeah.
pissed off about him.
Oh yeah, he's wilding. But yeah, man. Back to the shoes though. It was a lot. Oh, Pippins. How forget the Pippins? We wore Pippins. Them Pippins were hard. Pippin had some hard shoes. Rodman had some hard shoes too. Gary Payton. I was seeing people rocking the Paytons.
How hot were the
What about
feelers
the
with
Barclays?
Grant Hill?
The Grant Hills, those were hot out there. The Grant
Because
Hills was
people
hot out
clown Fila now. Because now you have off-brand shoes if you have Filas. People got like, you know, I got a daughter, she's 16. Clown me if I come in with some Filas.
See, we need to, as a culture, get away from caring what kids think. Like, I don't know why we feel like kids are the cool ones, because they're not. Kids don't know shit.
They ain't.
No,
Yeah,
I agree.
They don't know
And that's my
nothing.
whole point. The Grandos are hot.
Man, I can break out with some felines right now. You not finna tell me they what. Matter of fact, hold up. I'm gonna show you some felines right now.
You got them started.
I know I got them started. You know what I mean? Well, that's why we're kicking it with
That's
Unique.
what it is.
You
Yeah,
know what I
that's
mean?
what's up. That's how we
For
do
those
it.
watching, I'm gonna put it. I've known this dude for 25 years. He still got shoes from back then. I like them. Hey, I like. Are those white?
Oh
Unique?
yeah. Oh yeah.
Like, I wish somebody would clown me for wearing these.
No, but what else was hot? What about hey, wait a minute. What about the kind of were like the Oreos, the Sean Kemps? What about those ones? They're like a white and black swirl.
The Sean Kemps I remember were the green and black ones, but yeah, because now if you got a signature shoe and you're a popular player, that was always gonna sell in places like Chicago or anywhere, you know, that's basketball culture. So Kemp,
Yeah,
he
but
was
hold on, real quick. I just want to let people, for those people that aren't from Chicago, the Jordans were so hot. People used to wear baby Jordans around their necks as necklaces. That's how hot the Jordans were. You'd wear a baby Jordan as a necklace.
It was real.
What about the Larry Johnsons with the gel and the Converse and all that?
You know what? I do remember the Larry Johnsons, but I feel as though I'm more so seeing the Larry Johnsons around like the 94 and 95, like around then. I don't
Yeah, I
feel
was
like
thinking like 92, 93 from what I remember.
so, yeah. You might be right though. It might have been that early. I might be tripping. It might have been as early as like 92 that I'm thinking. But I didn't really see much love for Larry Johnson after like 95 like that. We at that point it was Spreewell, Iverson, shit,
So
even
real quick, if you had to guess, I'm just gonna ask you this, okay? Because we're running out of time. We got to get off here real quick, pretty soon. We'll be back tomorrow. But the hottest shoe, if you had to say, other than the Jordans, were what in the 90s?
the hottest shoe other than the Jordans. I'm biased. I
In the
want to say the
90s.
Iversons, but I'm gonna be real. It's probably one of the first two pennies. It's probably either the penny. I'm gonna say penny twos. I'm gonna say the twos.
I got you. All right. Well, that's all we are. We're out of time. I'm Tony Styles. He's unique. This is the double R rated superstar. We will be back tomorrow at the same time. Tomorrow is it's Freestyle Friday. We'll be talking about current events, things like that. So please check us out tomorrow. Shout out to Sports Fluence. Thanks for having us on. And y'all take care.
All right, y'all.
Hey, remember, we're dropping dimes like Dare.
Hey, Dare.